Welcome back to another night in the life of a 3D print business. Like I said in the last video, I do a lot of this stuff at night after my day job in the evening. So instead of a day in the life, this is more of a night in the life of the 3D print business or farm that's going on here. I want to update you guys on kind of the business side of things and then some cool things that are going on. I am working on a video in the other studio. Gonna go peek in on there and kind of show you the behind the scenes and stuff in there. But as far as Etsy goes, for the month of August, it was probably my best month so far, and especially Labor Day weekend. I know it was the very end of August, and Friday and Saturday, and even into Sunday, the end of the month here over that weekend. Man, I got 16 packages that I had to get, and that was just for one weekend, and that was the most I've ever had in one weekend, was 16 packages, and that was including multiple orders. So like a lot of those little Halloween figures I'd sell, people would buy quite a bit of those in bulk, and then the ammo containers I have, one guy bought 9 of them, and a bunch of others buy several of those at a time. So even though it's 16 packages, usually it's multiple items in that package, which is great. But yeah, it was crazy just how well August was. And so far I could go from August 5th to September 3rd, just the way Etsy's set up, is had a total of 62 orders, which is pretty good for my small little shop, and had a revenue of just under $1,200, which is great as well, which brings us to a total of 136 orders for the entire time I've had this shop open since February of this year. So a big chunk of that was from this month of August, which is great. So I don't know if it was because, people going back to school, the Labor Day holiday, or just the fact that Halloween's coming up and a lot of my stuff is Halloween based right now that people are buying. So I think that might have had something to do with it, but that's what's been keeping me busy. I know the videos have been pretty slow, but it took me a long time, pretty much all of Saturday, to do a bulk of the packaging and everything. That does take a lot of time, even though Etsy, the backend, has it set up really easy where you just put everything in the package, weigh it, print off the label, you're good to go. I still had to, pull the inventory, package it up, and then there was quite a bit I still had to print and wait for those, especially with the ammo containers, but definitely kept me busy. It was nice to have a long 3-day weekend for that. But let's go ahead and take a walk around the room here, and then we'll step into the office and see what's going on in there. All right, so on the P1S, we have some of those Freddy's printing out. These things have been very popular. As you can see, I got a whole bunch down here, and I sold a whole bunch of these over Labor Day weekend and continue to. So I'm just trying to keep up on these. I am trying to build up a stock just because they do take a long time to print. They are selling for enough profit, so I'm going to keep these going while Halloween is coming up here pretty quick. But I'll probably stop selling these after Halloween and try to do something more Christmas related. But for now, these have been selling like hotcakes, so I'm just trying to keep pretty much these 3 printers, printing those. The AnyCubic was printing those, and it was doing good. I actually put one of the Bamboo Lab plates in here because the AnyCubic one has a lot of trouble with adhesion, but as you can see, even on the Bamboo Lab PEI plate, had some issues there, but it was all doing just fine until we got to a color change there on the silver, and then I just kept getting the same issues I was getting before, the filament being stuck or some weird thing with the extruder, but everything was coming out fine. I could not get that to work. I'd hit resume, it'd work for a little while and come up with the same thing. So I don't know, the AnyCubic, when it works, but then times like this when you're halfway through a print and it decides not to work, you're kind of stuck. So I was hoping the firmware updates would have fixed a lot of that, which it did, but then it's starting to do some of that weird funky stuff again and just not as reliable as I would like. And to be halfway through, a 20-hour print and it kind of stop kind of sucks, especially for if you're trying to sell this stuff. So I don't know, still having issues with this, but these little guys are coming out good. The good thing about this is I can do 4 colors with this, and then the eyes here as the 5th color, I can just glue those in no problem. And then obviously the balloons are separate there. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing these on the Bamboo Lab printers because they work well. And then this guy here, still, it's working. As you can see, I printed off a couple of these and I've recalibrated it and everything, and still having issues with the first layer. Like the bottoms of those, you can see, did not print very well. So this was the first layer on the Qidi Plus 4. The rest of it is fine. No issues there, but that first layer. So then after that, I recalibrated it to see if that would change anything. Ended up getting a little bit better, but not perfect. Still having some issues after the recalibration. So I don't know, still figuring that out as far as that goes. So unfortunately now, since they've upgraded the firmware, obviously to add the Qidi box, but this is where the unload and load filament button was over here. But now it's in here. And since I don't have the, the Qidi box, obviously this is not an option. I just hit this spool here. And one of these is supposed to, light up so I can use it. There is filament loaded in there currently, but it doesn't even give me the option to do anything. Keep hitting that and nothing. So I've reached out to them and they're like, oh, just hit that button and one of these will pop up. Yeah, kind of not happening. So we're going to see what they say, because as of right now, I cannot unload filament from the Qidi Plus 4. So let me know if you guys are having the same issue after the latest firmware update, but kind of at another standstill. And unfortunately, that's kind of been the theme with this printer, is just it'll work for a little while and then something happens and it's down for quite a while. And right now it seems to be a software issue. Even if I restart it, start it again, do the little refresh button, it doesn't work, and they've taken that away. Obviously I can manually cut it and take the filament out, but I'm not sure if it'll register it. And then again, I don't know if that button's gonna pop up to where I can load new filament in here. So I guess if I really need it, I can just print with this matte black that's in here, but kind of disappointing, just the endless issues with really these two printers. But I do have a new one that I've been testing out and working on right now. So let's go take a look at that one real quick. All right, so coming into the studio here, you can see I have it set up as I'm working on a video on a new printer, which I'm pretty excited about. And as you can see here, it is the FlashForge AD5X. So I'm on the second print here. We did the initial print that it automatically does of this little token here. Came out really nice, looks pretty good. And then it is on just a multicolor benchy right here. I just used the colors that they sent me. They sent me these 4 colors, so just testing those out. But once this is wrapped up, I'm going to do a tool holder for all these accessories here that just kind of hangs on the side. And then to really test this thing out, especially with the multicolor, is I'm going to fill the bed plate with a lot of those Halloween figures and do one of those, because that is like generally they take about 20 hours and use all 4 filament. So really see how that handles that type of print. And then hopefully, if everything goes good, this will make it into the print room and will help assist with those prints. But right now this thing is doing pretty good. Those colors are coming out great. No issues on, I know it's just a benchy, but it looks pretty good. A couple things I didn't notice about this printer until I actually got it and started looking at it is it does not come with a camera. So there's no built-in camera. And there's also no light fixture, so there's no light anywhere on here that you can use. So if you are looking at the AD5X, just keep that in mind. You can actually order the camera from FlashForge. It's $40, and right now it's out of stock, so you're kind of stuck on that. But I mean, those are not usable for like cool little footage, but it is nice to have the check-in on the print every now and then, especially if you're not home. But keep that in mind, no light and no camera on this thing. But the touch screen is nice and intuitive and everything. So it's nice to have an LED screen right there. And so far, the multicolor system's been working, no issues going through the different colors. And then like most printers now, it does poop out of the back. One downside to where the power cord is if you like to put just in a box right here to catch the waste, it's kind of in the way. So it's going to stick out. I've had a couple pieces fall in here. So I wish they would have put that cable somewhere else. So I'll probably have to come up with something a little bit different than putting a box there. But there are people that have designed some chutes for the back here. But just keep that in mind. If you do use those boxes, that power cord might get in your way. But other than that, this thing coming out pretty good. It is smaller build plate. It's 220 cubed versus the 256 on the Bamboo Lab. A little bit smaller, but not a deal breaker at all, especially because I do a lot of multicolor prints that are selling right now. So to have this in production will come in handy. And I know this is a very small detail, but I do like the fact that they include cutters, because I actually don't have a pair of these. I have some that look like nail clippers, like fingernail clippers that I've been using, but to have an actual pair like this is nice. So I'm glad that they still provide these. I know Elegoo used to, but they don't anymore. These are the kind of accessories you get. And I do like the nozzle cleaner that you get. This is definitely a lot better than I get on some of the other printers. So this will help clear a lot of those clogs I'm getting, especially on the Qidi Plus 4. I'll be able to use this. So yeah, that is the FlashForge AD5X. So if you want to know more about this printer and how it's going, stay tuned for this video that will hopefully be coming out shortly, as long as everything goes good. But this is just kind of behind the scenes so you can see how I do have this set up for actual detailed videos. I do have, this is my main light, would be a key light. It's a lantern. I also use that softbox in the other room as well for lighting in there. And then I have this other one here as the secondary light, kind of help get rid of some of the harsh shadows on that side. And then the hair light up there as well. And then have the camera here. This is a Sony a7 IV. I have been using this in the other office as well. I just take it back and forth. I do like the wide angle lens on this versus the Sony ZV E10, so I've been using this. And then this is just an Elegoo prompter. It's not on here. I don't script my videos or anything, but the nice thing is when I'm sitting here, I usually use Ecamm Live. So I'll have Ecamm Live open, as you can see here, and it just has a preview window. If you've never used Ecamm Live, I highly recommend it. I use it for all my videos. Obviously, it is meant for live streaming, which I've used before on my podcast and is great, but it is also nice for recording videos because if you have a monitor, you have a preview window, and then you can actually change a bunch of settings. So I can change my zoom and everything, so get everything in frame, and then just change a bunch of stuff, and there's different scenes. So if I want to do a screen share, I can just hit that, and it'll share what's on my screen and go back and forth, and then everything's in a file. I do use the Rodecaster Pro. When I'm not moving around using a lav mic, I do use it for my Shure SM7B there, but this thing's nice as well. Use that mainly for the podcast, but when I'm using a microphone, I have the Rodecaster going as well. But then with the prompter, it'll actually have a preview window that I can bring over. You can script your videos and it will show up on there. So I'll drag this window over here, and then it's basically just another confidence monitor. So it's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's actually the same preview window that you see over here, that's over there. But you can also have a script there. So if you have a script written out, you can read off the script and you're actually looking right at the camera because the lens of the camera is right back there. So that is nice, but I just use that as kind of a secondary monitor. So I'm looking at myself, and because it's weird looking at like a blank screen or just a lens, that way I'm actually can see what's going on. But then I have this off to the side as well, and pretty much can control that. And I've connected about 4 different cameras to this, and there's a camera switcher built in here, especially if you have the Stream Deck. That's nice to use as well. So it's pretty much my setup there for YouTube videos in this studio anyway. It's way overkill, but I've had a couple podcasts through here, so I've gone through a lot of equipment, and this is kind of what I've ended up on. And then I'm just using a Husky desk, nothing fancy, just I like it because it is adjustable and it does have a big workspace. So right now I have it higher so I can stand for this video that I'm recording here. But then if I want to lower it, I just sit on that chair over there and kind of sit back behind here. And then I just have that hair light mounted to my gun wall here, and that just kind of separates you from the background a little bit more. And then some accent lighting here. Just have these little cheap guys. I think they were like 20 bucks each. And I just have a few of those everywhere just to kind of add a different color to the background. And of course the Century Carbon kind of shows up in the background as well. But yeah, that's, if you see this video, this is kind of behind the scenes of what it looks like. And this is what I'm looking at when I'm recording a video pretty much. So it looks like this is coming out pretty good. And one other thing, I know if you guys have these lights that are actual, like, you know, studio lights, these are the GVM SD200Ds. They're not RGB, but they're bicolor, so I can change the temperature on this, which is nice. But usually they come with these flimsy stands, but I have these C stands that I use on this one, which are great. They're nice and sturdy, but they take up a lot of floor space. And so I had one on this light right here where it was sitting here, but I kept tripping over it and then obviously hitting my head on the softbox. So I got one of these wall mounts, and this was definitely nice to have. It got that C-stand out of the way, and I'm hitting my head on that softbox way less than what I was. So if you guys have a studio set up and want to use something a little bit different to get a little bit more space, especially if you're in a small studio, I highly recommend these wall mounts for the lights. Again, this is just another one of the lights here, the same one as over there, and then an aperture light dome for this one with the grid. Just adds a little bit more of a softer and kind of controls where the light's going, where this one is the lantern. It just kind of lights up everything. So you get a little bit more control with this one. And then for any overhead shots, I got that other C-stand that used to be over there, over here. And then I have a mount here that I just put my cell phone up there and then just use that as a top-down shot. And I can either connect that to Ecamm Live, or I can just record directly to the phone, which is typically what I do. And then I have that overhead shot as well. So I'm gonna wrap this video up here because I think that Benchy just finished up. I did move the camera and that softbox in here to record this little bit of the video. But if you guys are interested in how the FlashForge AD5X is gonna come along and wanna see the initial video on that, again, it's not a long-term review, obviously, because I just got it, but I just wanna do an initial out of the box, kind of what the setup's like and the first print so you can get an idea and kind of some of the specs. Obviously, I'm gonna have that running, and then after I have several hundred hours and a good feel for it, then I'll do a full review on that. But fingers crossed, right now it's looking like it's gonna be pretty good. So if you are interested in that and wanna follow these vlogs as well, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button so you can be notified when those videos come out. And until then, go ahead and check out these videos right here.